What's up, homies? So, first of all, if you want to support my work, you can go and grab yourself one of these scalpels. Scalpel HMK. These are really sick. They're on my website, they're on Etsy, and they'll soon be available on a few major distributor like websites. But I'll have to update you guys on that later. And they come with a Kydex sheath like this, and a pocket clip, and also a lanyard. Now, what I wanted to talk about, and I'm wrapping a handle while we're doing this, is sort of the moral issues with a conscription military. Now, mind you, for most of my life, I was very, very supportive of conscription-style militaries. In my mind, it made just an enormous amount of sense that all these children, especially the men, but I think also the women, when you turn a certain age, a letter comes to your house and they say, you are now going to spend a year with us, and we're going to train you how to shoot a rifle, how to obey commands, how to ride tanks, and just, basically you're taught how to fuck anything up together. Now, to get straight to the point, the moral implication there is, like, at first, this is a good thing. Everybody should be able to, a nation should be able to work together. And there are a lot of benefits to a conscription military. But what happens when your government becomes subverted by some kind of schizophrenic, psychotic, socialist or communist ideology? What happens when your nation goes from a nation that you once trusted to a nation that you now don't have any trust in? What happens then to everybody in the entire country who's had to undergo this conscription-style military and are now forced and obligated to respond to any military action against the state now that it's become politically subverted? Right? What if a foreign nation now sees you as a threat because you've now undergone some kind of communist subversion, socialist subversion, and you're starting to ally with dangerous political ideologies, agencies and alliances that promote these kind of psychotic communist ideas? Well, now you've become the enemy. You've become what can you do? You're now forced to fight and defend a nation that's causing all the problems that would force other nations to invade you, to attack you. So if you go from, say, a politically neutral country, what happens when that ideology is just thrown under the bus and replaced for a highly volatile, irrational, schizophrenic ideological system that's no longer abiding by rationale, right? No longer abiding by the rules of logic and self-preservation, ruled by a corrupt elite who have no intention of protecting you and assuring your safety. Because the most important rule, really, of war is to avoid it. Diplomacy, peace, trade, these are really the important things. In one sense, capitalism and trade are the great equalizer. If you want to trade with Russia, you need to have good relations with China or Russia or whatever. What did I just say? If you want to be at peace with another nation, it helps to have trade. I spent my entire youth, I spent 15, 20 years of my life training every day for special forces. in the end, I didn't go for a professional military career. I had a lot of concerns, mainly that I felt like a lot of the conflicts that Western nations were getting involved with seemed very corrupt. And if I'm going to train my whole life to essentially kill other people, there might be a conflict of morale if I don't know if it's just some random people that, the government told me to go and, these guys are bad. Okay, sir, these guys are bad, And for me, I need a lot of convincing before I step into something with a lot of conviction. The reason I was so determined to go into a military career is because, when we're young, as kids, we're kind of told, hey, you need to decide now what you're going to do for the rest of your life, or else you're screwed. And, I just looked and I was like, I don't really enjoy sitting down all day at school. I mean, sure, I think I have the mental faculties to become, theoretical physicist or doctor or these things, but the amount of work involved and the amount of research and studying, and then how much of this information that you're studying is actually true, you could spend your whole life, 20 years, all the way up until a PhD, learning all this stuff only for, modern research and science and, just how science naturally develops to be like, oh, actually, like 90% of what you learned was horseshit. But you had to learn it because it makes a foundation for this. And it's like, all right, fine. But, or an engineer. I think that would have been the smartest. But again, I went to engineering uni, and I really didn't, I tried to get a job at an engineering place, and it's just, it didn't appeal to me. Like, I'm completely fascinated by technology and physics and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I listen all day to podcasts, lectures from, universities on physics and technology and all this kind of stuff, but it's just, I didn't like the idea of being stuck indoors in a room. And then, anyway, I looked at what I was doing. It's the exact same thing. Knife making isn't too much of a reach from engineering anyway. Metal, heat treat, whatever. And so anyway, I was training my whole life for this. I mean, I did a lot of, shooting, bodybuilding. I was teaching myself escape and evade. I started making knives because I was self-teaching escape and evade tactics. What happens when, terrorists catch you and you got to escape? Well, I wanted to learn how to make tools and knives because if I have to, go cross country, I'll pick up a spring somewhere, maybe make a knife out of it, and then use that as a tool or self-defense tool, while I'm escaping and evading. And that actually led into my knife making career. During the military service in Finland, which was an extraordinary experience. I mean, it was like straight out of Saving Private Ryan. I got to shoot machine guns, rocket launchers, learning to use a radio, riding tanks, throwing grenades. It was nonstop fun. I had 4 captains that were retiring that year, and they all came to me during military exercises. They all came to me, they shook my hand, and they said that I was the best they'd ever seen in their whole career. They were retiring that year. So I knew that part of me was definitely like, there was definitely like a lot of cues there. I said, look, I would have been pretty decent. I would have been okay. But you until you actually face a combat situation, there's bullets flying at you, you'll never really know how good you really are. I feel like I'm pretty good under stressful conditions. I feel like I thrive in stressful conditions, but again, you just never know. You could be the best at something here, and then the second you're thrown into the water, you drown. It's like, and then there's other things too. Like what happens? You jump out of a helicopter. This happened actually during training. We got ambushed in our tanks, and then we ran out of the back of the tanks, and there was like 3 fucking claymores pointing at us. And I realized, like, yeah, this is like, it doesn't matter how much training you got. You jump out of the back of a tank, and there's a fucking claymore stick right in your face, and it's like, there goes like 30 years of experience. Another thing too is I was I felt like I really wanted to find a nice girlfriend, wife material, and I felt like if I was too busy with the military stuff, I probably wouldn't find that. But so what happens to conscripts when your government becomes politically subverted into communist ideologies? It doesn't matter what your ideologies are, because now you're forced to fight. You are now automatically recruited into this corruption. You're automatically recruited into this subversion. You're automatically now forced to abide to ideologies and morals and things that you stand against. That's a really bad thing, because, and if you think about it, what better nation is there to politically subvert into your own psychotic communist ideologies than a country that's had a military conscription for decades, where half the country is forced to fight, pick up arms, regardless of what your ammo storage is, regardless of what your industrial capabilities are, regardless of what your alliances are with whatever nations. It's really something to think about, and I'm not sure really, because if your nation has moral obligations that suit the survival, suit the well-being of the citizens and the taxpayers, then of course then of course a military conscription makes sense. But if it's a corrupt nation that's instigating problems, that's collapsing trade, that's not invested in industry, that's not concerned about the well-being of its own people. In fact, one of the solutions to a morally corrupt and subverted political system is to send all these people deliberately to war so that you can kill off a vast portion of the population and not have to deal with any repercussions of your actions as an incompetent leader of the nation, right? Send them all to die so that they don't complain, right? What if you accidentally poison all of them because you told them, hey, you have to do this, you have to take this, and you are now, in order to save everybody or whatever. So they just poisoned you and nobody knows about it, and it just how do you hide your corruption? How do you hide your issues, your incompetence? Well, you hide it by starting a war, killing off everybody. Well, actually, one thing you do is you raise taxes, impoverish everybody, and then you send them all to war to die. So now there's nobody there to revolt. There's no revolution if there's a war. Send them all to die. Who cares who the enemy is? Send them all to die before they create a militarized revolution. Start a world war to avoid your corrupt political system from being overrun by revolutionists. In many ways, one could argue that often war is simply a blood sacrifice of able men that otherwise pose a threat to the very establishment they swore to protect. There's a lot of philosophies involved. And, what I've come to realize, and I'm not an American, but I feel like an American at heart. I share all the constitutional values. For me, what I've realized is that there's only one thing in the entire world. Well, there's a couple things, but the main thing that is not, family, that I would sacrifice my life for and defend to my teeth is the American Second Amendment and the right for self-defense and the right to protect yourself. Because in most countries, like in Finland, for example, you're not allowed to protect yourself. You're a criminal if you defend yourself. So why should I defend the country if I'm not allowed to defend myself? Why should I defend the state from a foreign invasion if I'm not allowed to protect myself? If I can't carry a gun for self-defense, why should I carry a gun into the battlefield to defend the government? That's a big moral problem right there. I'm not a peasant. I don't have the peasant mentality. And I'm not going to allow, peasants to, the peasant mentality to corrupt me. No. So I think there's a lot of things here that are really interesting because, we peasants have been thrown into a bunch of senseless random fucking wars for a pretty long time now. And especially in the last couple centuries, we've, been thrown into the gauntlet of fire constantly, continuously, and there's no end to it. And most of the time, all it's doing is preserving the corruption that exists in existing political systems that are politically subverted, schizophrenic, psychotic, communist, socialist systems. My dream right now is to get this product as far as I can get it, to get it as successful as possible, to get it out there, to raise funds, to create a mass production version of it. Then I'm moving to Florida. I'm moving to the US. I'm going to find a sweet, Southern accent girl and set up shop there, start producing the scalpels there. And my goal is just to surround myself with people who support the Second Amendment. Because honestly, it's the only thing that makes sense. There needs to be armed self-defense against the government, against the political system. Because the greatest enemy is not going to be your foreign adversaries. Your greatest enemy is always going to be some form of government, whether it's your neighboring government, whether it's your own government. It's not their soldiers that are really your enemy, because most of the time these are people you probably, and it's possible too, you had a few beers with them sometime, you don't even know about it. Totally forgot. But it's when those political systems, the governments, become corrupt, they send those guys to come and kill you. Now you don't have a choice. So I'm all for a military system. You have to have a military, especially to defend objectively moral governing systems. But there is also this conflict where power-hungry, schizophrenic, megalomaniac, communist, psychos, they want to absorb that system into their power structure. They see a military and it's like, this is now mine. Oh, all these nuclear bombs, this is now mine. I have the power. Nuclear weapons have done a great job of creating a certain degree of peace in the world. But what it's done is that it's created power hunger within its own country. So for example, whether it's the US or wherever there are nuclear weapons, we don't really have world wars anymore. We don't have direct conflict between superpowers, but what we have is conflict within these states to gain power over those nuclear weapons. There's a lust to attain, to grab, to have these nuclear weapons, to have the military for yourself, right? So how do you stop a subverted political party from absorbing your military system that's essentially there for your well-being into a node of psychotic, power-hungry, psychosis, and you're absorbed along with it? When they grab all that military power, they're grabbing you with it. They're taking you with it, and you don't have a choice. It's forcing you it's forcing you to participate violently, but not for your own well-being, for their well-being, into their system of world control. So it's a very difficult subject. This is kind of military philosophy. Is a military conscription good or bad? Well, I'll tell you, there's one amazing thing that happens from a military conscription. I can go anywhere in Finland and talk to any guy, and we've all been trained. We all know how to talk to each other. We've all been through it. We've all been through boot camp. We've all have a whole bunch of us have gone through, leadership camp, NCO training. Some of us have gone to CO training. Many of us have even gone and taken a full career there. You can meet any guy on the street and they've got training in driving a tank, shooting artillery, learning how to read the map to land artillery strikes. You got guys who are proficient in close quarters combat. You got guys who are guerrilla. For example, me, I know how to shoot most rocket launchers. I know how to aim most rocket launchers. Part of my training as a guerrilla infantry is anti-tank, laying mines, creating minefields. We have all gone through this communication system that we call the military, and we're one-on-one. Every guy in Finland, we're on the same page. And when you talk with police officers, you see that same thing. There is this mutual connection between all the dudes in Finland, where you've been there. You've been to that structure. You've been through that structure. When a cop is talking to you, you broke the law or something. There's still that degree of respect. And not only does the conscription work at this holistic civilian model, but it works within these institutional structures like the police, like the health industry, the hospitals and stuff. There's a degree of organized communication structure that exists within these that has been trained by the military. When you see cops talking to one another, it's just, you remember all of that communication. It's like it goes right, it hits right back home. The way they talk on the radios, the way that the commanding officer is giving commands, the tone of voice, the stance, the clean, the attire, having the zipper all the way up, the pockets closed, looking särmä, they say in Finnish. You see that with the cops. You see that in the fire department. You see that everywhere because there's a certain degree of respect for that. And when your political system becomes communist, it's politically subverted, schizophrenic, psychotic, they want to. Their goal is to absorb all of that, to remove choice from you, and to force you into their demands. So it's really it's a double-edged sword, military conscription. I don't understand that reference, to be honest, because a double-edged sword is fucking badass. But the reference goes, it's sharp on one side, sharp on the other. You can hit yourself. You can damage yourself as you can damage the others. I would say that it's like handling a grenade. That's probably a more accurate. That's probably a more accurate analogy. It's like handling a grenade. It either goes right or terribly wrong. You take the pin out, you drop the grenade you accidentally drop the grenade below your feet, you're fucked. Or you throw it in front of you and you fuck up a whole trench. So I think we should change that analogy from, it's like a double-edged sword, to more like it's like handling a grenade. And that's what the military conscription is. It's really like handling a grenade. It's great if it works out. But in the wrong hands, it's, incompetent person that's never held a gun, never done anything like that. You don't want them to start fucking around with live grenades. I mean, I remember the first time I was given a live grenade. It's hard to hold on to. Your gut instincts are telling you, man, I don't want to fucking hold on to this. And then you got to pull the pin out. When you pull the pin out, your pupils dilate. It's like you shake a little bit. It's hard to actually hold on to a grenade. It's hard to throw it. It's difficult. It's difficult to just overcome the psychological, Here you go, boys. Here's a grenade. So, yeah, that's really all I have to say. And again, if you want to support my work, I got all these scalpels lined up. This is mainly what I'm focusing on. There's a stainless steel version coming out pretty soon. And I'm in the works of creating like a Mora version with a plastic injection molded handle, with a plastic injection molded sheath. But it's going to take a lot of funds to get there. And that's going to be like the mass production version. And hopefully I can get that sold to like hardware stores and stuff. And if any of you are, own some kind of manufacturing system and you want to produce this, reach out to me. I think it's a very successful product. Everybody that has it loves it. And you can buy them on hotmetalknives.com. You can contact me on hot_metal_knives on Instagram. Yeah. So that's just something, the whole thing about military conscription, is it good or bad? That's really like an interesting subject because it's concerning, how do you, the key thing is, how do you prevent your own nation from being politically subverted? How do you, by voting? Well, the voting system existed forever, and we're still, there's still political subversion going on. So if we can abolish corruption entirely, then, military conscription makes a lot of sense. But then would we even need militaries? I guess we always will. Yep. Something to think about. Peace.